Okay, so if you're someone who feels like, you've got the English grammar down, you know tons of words, but maybe you still sound just a little bit stilted, a bit unnatural when you actually speak, well, then this deep dive is definitely for you. We're looking at a really practical guide on learning English, and it promises, well, kind of a shortcut to fluency using a technique called shadowing. So, our mission today really is to cut through the noise. We want to pull out the core mechanics, the real benefits, and the absolute best ways to practice according to this guide. We're trying to find that lever, the thing that helps you stop translating in your head and just speak smoothly. How do you get past that mental block and find real flow?
Yeah, and that mechanism is, well, exactly what they say makes shadowing so effective. The source defines it pretty clearly. Shadowing means listening to native audio and then repeating it at the exact same.
At the same time, not pausing.
No pause.
Yeah.
You're literally chasing the speaker's voice like an echo. It's quite active. And what's really interesting here, I think, is that you're sort of deliberately bypassing the analytical part of your brain. You're training your mouth and your ears, treating speech like a physical skill.
Like learning piano or something.
Exactly, like learning piano, where you don't stop and analyze every single note as you play. The immediate goal, this guide says, is to work on three key things that often hold back advanced speakers. That's pronunciation accuracy, the sort of musicality or rhythm of English, and just overall fluency, that smooth, seemingly effortless speed.
Okay, that makes sense. And it leads straight into their first step, which they call a warm-up. The guide suggests that before you even try shadowing, say, a complex sentence, you need to get the physical parts working, your mouth, basically. So they start with a focus on really simple, useful, everyday phrases. It sounds like it's about getting your mouth used to the actual shape of English sounds before your brain gets too tangled up in meaning.
Right, and they give this list of 10 sort of conversational building blocks, the kind of language you use every day. Think about how useful these are. You need ways to start a chat, like, how's it going? Or maybe acknowledge someone you haven't seen. Long time no see.
Mm.
And just as important, those little phrases that keep things smooth, like responding with, that sounds great.
And if we link that back to how English actually works, these phrases really force you to feel the correct stress patterns. When we talk about rhythm or musicality, it's not just about pitch going up and down. It's very specifically about sentence stress.
Ah, the stress-timed thing. Exactly. English is a stress-timed language. Lots of other languages are syllable-timed, which feels very different. So shadowing these basic utility phrases, it forces you to connect words naturally and put the emphasis on the right syllables. That's like the fundamental beat of spoken English. And look at the two types of phrases they really highlight. First, you've got what you might call social lubricants, right? Take care and have a nice one.
Yeah, ways to end things nicely.
Essential for smooth transitions, keeping that friendly tone. But then second, you have the recovery phrases. Things like, could you say that again, please? Or, sorry you didn't catch that.
Okay, so it's practical for when things go wrong, too.
Right. So this first stage shows the guide isn't just about making sounds. It's about managing social interaction gracefully, even when there's a bit of confusion. But the core insight here seems purely physical conditioning, just training the mouth to move with that English rhythm.
That conditioning idea, getting the mouth ready, that makes a lot of sense. But okay, warming up is one thing. How do you actually use those rhythmic bits to build a real conversation? That seems to be where this little practice dialogue comes in. The guide moves pretty quickly from single phrases into a short dialogue practice. They use a really simple scenario, making plans with a friend.
Hmm.
And walking through it shows a lot, mostly because it's so quick and, well, brief. It's a full exchange, but super efficient.
A asks if B is free, B asks why. A suggests coffee, B asks when, A suggests a time, and B just closes with, perfect, see you then.
That's it, 5 lines.
Yeah.
And what that little conversation really shows isn't just vocabulary, it's what native speakers tend to prioritize. Efficiency.
Natural English, according to this guide, often sounds short, friendly, and with smooth rhythm.
Short, friendly, smooth rhythm.
Okay.
It's like getting the most social connection with the least amount of linguistic effort or friction. And that rhythm is absolutely key. Think about it. If you're just trying to recall vocabulary words one by one, your speech is going to sound choppy, right? Because you pause after each word, thinking, translating.
Right, that mental translation step.
But shadowing, it forces you to practice the connections between the words. That smooth flow where something like see you then almost becomes one single sound chunk.
See ya then.
Exactly. And that rhythmic flow lets the interaction stay short and friendly, which kind of fulfills the unspoken agreement in natural conversation. You're basically training your mouth muscles to deliver the language without your conscious brain getting in the way so much.
Okay, so we've got the technique, the echo, we've got the material, those phrases and short dialogues focused on rhythm. Now, how do you actually do it effectively? The strategy part. The guide gives 4 essential tips. Pretty straightforward, and they seem crucial if you actually want this shortcut to work. Tips 1 and 2 are kind of the foundation. First, you absolutely have to listen carefully to the native speaker before you try to echo. You need that sound pattern clear in your head. Auditory memory,
Makes sense. Get the target first.
right? Second, when you do repeat, your focus needs to be really sharp on how native speakers connect words. That's where the smoothness, the rhythm actually happens. But then, tied to this focus is this almost surprising instruction. Don't worry about mistakes,
Ah, yeah. That jumps out.
doesn't it? The main goal here, they stress, is building fluency, not necessarily perfection, especially at first.
And that is, well, it's a pretty big mental shift for a lot of language learners, isn't it? People who've maybe been drilled on getting grammar exactly right above everything else. But if the focus is on speed and flow, doesn't that seem a bit risky? If I'm not worried about mistakes, am I not just, practicing bad habits, baking them into my muscle memory?
That's a really important question. And the source kind of addresses it indirectly by emphasizing the speed and flow are the goal here. The risk of embedding small grammar errors is seen as maybe acceptable because the bigger win is breaking through that fluency barrier.
A trade-off.
It seems like a utilitarian trade-off, yeah. Minor slips are okay if the overall delivery is fast, smooth, and people understand you. I mean, think about it. Native speakers make small grammar mistakes all the time in casual speech, don't they? But they still sound fluent because their rhythm and intonation are natural.
That's true. They prioritize connection.
Exactly. Connection over absolute correctness. That seems to be what this guide is pushing for.
Okay, that makes sense in context. And the last 2 tips seem to be about reinforcing that process and, crucially, measuring your progress on rhythm without needing a teacher with a red pen. Tip 3 is all about the feedback loop. Record yourself.
The dreaded recording.
Haha. Yeah, nobody loves hearing their own voice, but if you're training a motor skill, you need objective feedback, right? Comparing your recording directly against the original native audio is really the only way to spot those subtle differences yourself, in rhythm, in stress, in how words link together.
So you become your own coach, essentially.
Pretty much. And tip 4 just hammers home the importance of frequency. Consistency. This isn't about doing huge, intense shadowing sessions once a week. The guide explicitly recommends repeating regularly. It notes that even 5 minutes a day can make a big difference.
5 minutes. That's very doable.
Very, because it's about muscle memory. Motor skills, like we said, they're built through that consistent daily repetition, not just occasional big efforts. So this whole structured approach really shifts the focus away from traditional academic study towards something much more practical, almost physiological, optimizing your physical speech delivery for how people actually talk.
Yeah, that shift from language as just knowledge in your head to language as a physical sound you produce.
Yeah.
It's a really key takeaway for you, the listener. So just to recap the main findings here, shadowing is presented as this structured, echo-based method. It targets the physical side of speaking pronunciation and flow together. It seems especially good for getting the rhythmic patterns of everyday conversation into your system. And critically, it seems to need frequent practice, and you have to be willing to let go of chasing perfection, focusing instead on just smooth, confident fluency.
Mm-hmm. And that final promise from the resource is pretty bold. They really do claim this kind of rhythmic practice is one of the fastest ways to sound natural in English. It's a powerful statement. It really asks you to prioritize mastering the physical delivery, maybe even over just accumulating more vocabulary or more grammar rules.
Which brings us to a final thought, something for you to maybe think about as you consider trying this.
Mhm.
We talked about that sample dialogue, the one about making plans, right?
Mm.
And how the guide emphasized it should be short, friendly, and smooth.
Yeah, the efficiency and tone.
Exactly.
Mm.
It suggests that maybe the real goal of mastering spoken English isn't just about becoming grammatically perfect, like some kind of flawless orator. Maybe it's more about becoming a really efficient and pleasant social partner.
Hmm. Interesting angle. So, if communication in English often values speed and connection, and this guide puts rhythm and a positive, friendly tone right at the top, well, here's the question for you.
How often do you consciously prioritize just sounding friendly and efficient, that smooth rhythm, even if it means maybe not choosing the absolute perfect word or grammatical structure every single time when you're trying to sound truly natural?